Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the Salescast Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we are on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
Darrell here, and I'm excited to share with you one of the most innovative tools we've come across in a long time. Our partners at Why Institute have developed an amazing platform that helps people discover their Why operating system. It's truly amazing. In 10 minutes or less, you can know why you do what you do, how you bring your why to life, and what people can count on from you. It's truly the first step in self-awareness. If you're a coach or a sales leader who believes in helping your people understand who they are so they can be the best version of themselves, you've got to check this out. All you need to do is go to whyinstitute.com and look for the Why certification page. We'll put the link in the show notes. When you reach out to the Why Institute, let them know you heard about it here on Selling from the Heart, and you'll be on your way to helping your team discover what drives them. Hello and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
Another great day here in the podcast studio. Great seeing you. We're just rolling. Here we are. We're tell me, Darrell, I remember talking to you and it's like, hey, what do you want to do in 2024? And here we are a third of the way into it already. What's happening?
It's so excited and it's so exciting right now. And all of this, good things are happening. So thankful for one of the best gifts I think that you have given the sales community, Larry, and that is the daily dose of inspiration. All year long, people have been getting a daily dose of inspiration in their email inbox with just fresh, unique content to encourage, inspire, motivate, fire us up. Larry, thank you for doing that.
No, actually, it's my pleasure, but it's just something that I just wanted to give back. Every day, it's a thought. I wrap up my day. I put some thoughts together. It goes out the following morning, right into your inbox every single day, never to be repurposed. I will tell you that never has been repurposed.
Guaranteed fresh, guaranteed unique, the daily dose of inspiration. Just go to sellingfromtheheart.net/daily. Click the link in the show notes and stay focused, stay fired up, stay engaged in your heart. And Larry, another thing that keeps us engaged is just this great community of sales professionals all over the world that we get to interact with on a regular basis.
Yeah. And I just wanted to give a shout out to a near and dear friend of ours here at Selling from the Heart, and that's Aaron Massaro. And if there's any sales leader out there that wears his heart just out there for everyone to see, it's Aaron Massaro. He's a great sales leader. We appreciate you. We're super grateful to have you here in the Selling from the Heart community.
Yeah. Love you, Aaron, man. So thankful for you and so thankful for everybody in the community. Well, today we're excited to have Paul Ross in the studio. He's the author of Subtle Words That Sell, How to Get Your Prospects to Convince Themselves to Buy and Add Top Dollars to Your Bottom Line. Join us as we dive into his unique approach to sales, combining his skills as an elite sales trainer, a master hypnotist, and a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. With over 30 years of experience, Paul has mastered the art of using language to dramatically uplift sales results. Get ready to unlock the secrets of transformative communication. Paul, welcome to the Selling from the Heart studios. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here and to address your heart-centered audience. I'm going to blow some minds, disconnect the dots, color outside the lines. I do like to color outside the lines, give you some stuff that will shock you a little bit, but certainly inform you the whole way.
Oh, this is so good. Welcome, Paul.
Sure. Yeah. And Paul, you know the question that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers, and that is, what does it mean to you, Paul, to sell from the heart?
Sure. So I'm going to give you a slightly different answer than I think you've ever heard before. And I have to base it on a little bit of foundation. See, I believe our prospects don't necessarily believe they deserve what we have to sell. By the way, you're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions. You're never selling your actual product or service. But that said, Prospects just don't trust their own ability to make a good decision, and never underestimate how a prospect will resist or object or run away because they don't truly believe they deserve to have the new opportunity, the new horizons that you're expanding for them. So when you can reach into their mind and their heart and really demonstrate to them and help them trust that they deserve what you have, I think that's not only of service, that's healing. That's a healing thing. That's a heroic thing to do, because that change in belief about what they deserve in terms of what you're selling, if you do it right, generalizes out to their entire life. And to me, that's heroic and very heart-driven. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And you know what, Darrell? Paul was right. I haven't heard a response to selling from the heart like that. This is good. Just continue this. I mean, we're just peel this back just a little bit more for us, Paul, because this is, you have me intrigued because I just haven't heard it expressed that way before.
Sure. So here's the thing. Traditional sales trainings that you've gotten off the shelf, and I don't mean to knock what you guys are doing. I'm sure it's excellent, or you wouldn't have risen to the position that you're in. Traditional sales trainings tend to be looking inside of the box. I come from outside the box because my initial job, my initial entrepreneurial journey started out as someone who taught men how to meet women and how to be attractive to women. So in doing that, I had to look outside the box. So what I want to teach you is that I learned from that you're never selling your product or service. You're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions. Now, decisions, important ones, are not made from the conscious mind. They're made on a deep, unconscious or subconscious level, same thing. And they're made from our emotions. Sometimes they're made from our wounds and from our trauma. When you can get into the subconscious mind and influence it to expand, then something different takes place. And let me unpack that just a little bit more. The first question I teach my VIP clients is not, how do I get the listing? How do I complete the negotiation? I teach them this. What state of consciousness do you want your prospect, your client in before you make your presentation? A metaphor, because I teach in metaphors. I train VIPs in metaphors. I have a sheet of gold foil and I have a sheet of cardboard that fit my hands in. And I have a current of electricity. Larry and Darrell, which one will conduct the electricity? It's not a trick question. The cardboard or the foil?
I'm going with the foil, Larry.
Same here, because I'm just trying to, there's no way cardboard could do
right.
Unless it's a trick question.
So consider your presentation as the electricity, but your prospect state of mind as being the conductive medium. Do you want them in the cardboard state of mind of not trusting you, of not being able to focus on what you have to say, of not trusting themselves? Or do you want them in the state where they're deeply focused on you, where they trust you, and most importantly, they trust themselves? Because no one in any sales training these days will tell you that know, like, and trust is not enough. It's necessary, but it's not enough, because now you have to get your prospects focused and trusting. They have to trust themselves. So that entire process of getting your prospect to trust themselves, I'm going to just not so humbly say I'm the only one who teaches. And the second thing is about focus. Your number one enemy, your number one challenge to selling is not your competition. It's this. I'm holding up my smartphone. Because of this, Larry and Darrell, how often do you check your phone for messages or email a day?
You get that report at the end of the week and you go, oh my goodness.
I turned it off. I turned it off, Paul. So that'll give you an idea.
You're smart. But nowadays, your average prospect and our client has the attention span of a goldfish. I'm old enough to remember when YouTube first came online, the ads were 90 seconds long. No joke. Can you imagine a YouTube ad 90 seconds long today?
No.
So the question is, how do you get your prospects focused? Even before you get them trusting you, even before you get them excited, even before you push all the psychological buttons, if they're not focused, forget it. So my claim is I can teach people how to get that focus, either in a video sales letter, a one-on-one presentation, a presentation from the stage, a written sales letter. I can teach you how to do that within the first 60 seconds of a presentation. That's the important thing. So this whole idea that selling is about creating states of consciousness and expanding states of consciousness. To me, selling is not only about getting your ideas into the prospect's mind. It's about expanding their mind to include your ideas and new possibilities. This is a bat bleep. I'm not going to say the rest of that. It's a bat bleep, crazy and novel approach to selling.
I want to go back to something that you said about trust. And we talk a lot at Selling from the Heart about trust and building trust with prospects. But this concept of, do I trust myself? Does the buyer trust themselves to make a good decision? And you also layered in, do they even feel like they deserve that decision? I'd love to hear some more about that. I think that is extremely interesting. And I see the roadblock there.
Sure. So if you're asking how you get around it, or are you asking me to unpack the problem, or both?
Well, both would be wonderful, because I think everyone listening in is going, hey, I see that. How do we get around it?
So here's the thing. I believe as a healer, because what's not in my biography is also I do healing work, that life is inherently traumatic. It's both chronically traumatic, meaning it's low-level trauma, but it goes on for a long time. There's an epidemic of isolation and loneliness, just as an example. And then people have chronic trauma, acute trauma, where they've gone through a car accident, an assault, whatever it is. And when we go through trauma, we tend to form beliefs based around it. We're always telling ourselves a narrative. So if you grew up in a family, for example, that had ruins around money, you were taught that there's never enough. My father, bless his soul, may he live in the arms of God forever, for eternity. My father gave me messages about money like there's never enough, and et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So if your prospect is carrying that stuff, and also if they're overwhelmed by too many choices, this is the other thing that causes them to mistrust their ability to make a decision. They just have too many options. A confused mind doesn't make good choices, and therefore the confused mind doesn't trust those choices. So if you can get into the back of their mind and convince them or show them a better opportunity, and then attach good feelings to that opportunity using hypnotic language, using the power of suggestion. This is what I teach my VIPs. It's what I teach in my book. I teach in my courses. I can unpack some of that for you if you'd like to hear some of the exact wording.
Oh, if you can, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, this is fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's different, as you can see.
Absolutely.
So let me give you an example about focus. How would I get people to focus? Well, I couldn't say, in a moment, I'm going to hypnotize you. As I do, you will focus only on my voice. You won't hear anything else in the room. 1, 2, 3. That doesn't work. But obviously, but you can drop in suggestions. Actually, it would work on 15% of the population. They're known as somnambulists. Somnambulists accept anything as real. They have we won't get into that.
Wow.
Okay, so I want my prospects to focus. I would suggest it. I would say, as we begin this exploration of our opportunity today, I don't know all the places you might stop, and focus in on what it is you see that's possible for yourself. But as that's taking place, would you make me one promise? Can we have one agreement? Would you please share the questions that naturally arise when a great decision's being made? Now, that sounds like a big bunch of dialogue, but I teach my VIPs how to break it down. But I'm giving suggestions to focus. I'm giving suggestions to trust themselves. Notice I didn't say a great decision to sign on the dotted line today. I said a great decision's being made. I'm deliberately vague. So here's a principle of subtle selling. It's a principle of hypnosis. When you're vague like that, the unconscious mind will fill in the blank. Do you understand? If I said directly, your decision to buy from me now, they're going to go, really? Who the hell is this guy? But when you say a great decision is being made and you nod their head, you know how I know I really got them? They nod their head.
Nod back. Yeah.
Not like this. It's very subtle. Subtle is significance, hence the title of my book, Subtle Words and Selling. Does that make sense, that answer, or should I unpack it further?
No, this is so good because these are things that I think salespeople think about. I just don't know how often. And here's the other thing. Here's the first word. I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, Paul. And the first word that comes to mind is comfortable. I don't know why it hit my head that way, but when I started listening to that, I'm like going, okay, now I'm going to be in that comfortable state of mind that I can share with Paul the things that are on my mind.
Because I suggested it.
Exactly.
It very carefully. I very carefully crafted it. Now, here's the exciting news that your listeners and viewers may in some way stop and allow themselves to get really excited as they naturally think to themselves, I got to have more Paul. Here's the really exciting stuff. This can see how I did that?
Oh, that was good. That was good.
Here's the thing. This can be trained. This can be taught. You don't have to be a natural born salesperson. And I don't create sales processes for people. You have to have a working sales process even to apply to work with me. But here's the thing. I will take your existing sales process and drop this kind of language in. And the super exciting thing is you don't even have to be there in person. This works in video sales letters. It works in email. Email, not so much, but it works. It works very well. You can do it in recorded broadcasts. You can do it anywhere. So it's not limited to the format of 1-to-1. That's the beauty of it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Very, very powerful and very interesting in all of this. And I'm curious. So I know our listeners, we're meeting with executives, decision makers at 2:30 in the afternoon. They've just come out of, 6 hours of meetings, conversations, bad news, hassles, people, all of the chaos.
Gotcha.
And then they jump into a Zoom room with someone. What do you do to reset all of the negative emotion that they come into the room with?
I gotcha. You use the power of suggestion, you use metaphor, and you use stories, and you use pacing. So you say, I was just talking to a potential client about an hour ago, and they were expressing how much executives can feel overwhelmed. And I said to them, when you walk into something where you have felt overwhelmed, you see how I just put it into the past? When you walk into something where you have felt overwhelmed, oftentimes what's useful is to just take a breath and let go. Now, I don't know in what ways you might find yourself doing that, or even if you even need it, because you seem really sharp and used to the stress. But I just thought it might be useful to share that. Anyway, moving along. So you see how I'm doing a few things. I'm talking about what happened to a client. I'm giving suggestions. And when I say take a deep breath, I demonstrate the behavior. So the way the unconscious works is, yes, suggestions are great, but when you pair it with the actual behavior, then it's really more powerful. Parrot, not parrot. Wah, wah,
Yeah.
And finally, I'm pacing their reality. So that creates rapport and suggestibility. By the way, rapport is overrated.
All right. You got to go there.
So rapport is only important to the extent it creates suggestibility, in my way of thinking. You can get in rapport with someone and they can feel that they like you and they're simpatico with you because you're both interested in fishing. That's not going to affect the sales process. Rapport is only important if it sets the groundwork for suggestibility. And even I'm going to use a C word, not what you think. The C word is compliance. To get someone to comply. And comply means that on some level, the unconscious level, they view you as their leader and themselves as your follower. Now, what would it be like for your sales? I want to talk to people who could be clients, or even if they can't. What would it mean for your sales? How exponentially would they increase if your prospect or client not only viewed you as someone who's trusting trustable, but they view you as their leader, not consciously, but unconsciously. Because for every leader, there must be a what?
A follower.
Exactly. So when you can imply leadership and suggest it, they will come to the conclusion that they're your follower. Followers are compliant. So I want to create suggestibility and compliance. And rapport, if it doesn't do that, so what? So what? We're in rapport because we both like, the old sales technique, point to the stuffed fish on the wall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? It's a waste of time. And anyway, the old ways of creating rapport, you no longer have the time to do it, particularly with an executive who's busy and overwhelmed. So the old ways of rapport, they'll work, but it's now diminishing returns. You're only going to move the needle maybe incrementally. I want you to move the needle as exponentially in the quickest amount of time and to help you take on these skills in the shortest amount of time.
You know what, Darrell? What I love about this conversation is, it's fresh because this is new stuff here at Selling from the Heart that I know we haven't even dove into forever. But here's what I just got to get this out in the forefront because I know we have listeners going, man, Paul, I get you. I think I get you. Where do I start this? Because this is completely different ways of thinking. Yeah, I totally get it. Because I think, where does confidence play in this? Because if you have salespeople out there who lack confidence, I think they're gonna struggle with this. But where does somebody start?
I break down confidence, and I learned this in coaching guys. There's different kinds of confidence. There's performance confidence. That's when you've done something well 1,000 times. Yeah. So you can expect. That's out of the picture for this. There's rehearsal confidence where you rehearse it over and over and over again. So you're prepared when you go in. But most importantly, there's what I call learning confidence. No matter what happens, you have a good system for extracting learning and improving the skill. Now, here's another claim I'll make. And let me set it up with a question. How many times have you gone to a seminar or listened to a tape or whatever, got an online course, and they say, learn from every mistake? Have you ever heard that one?
A time or two.
Yeah, all the time. Has anyone ever given you an exact process to do that? Or have they just given you the advice, learn from your mistakes?
I can't think of that. I think you're absolutely right. So we suggest something with no guidance.
So learning confidence is the most important thing in the beginning. And there's no one out there that's developed a system for you to learn from every experience. I had to do it out of necessity because I was coaching guys who hadn't had a date in their whole life and they were 35 or 40. And so they couldn't get rehearsal confidence or performance confidence. I had to teach them learning confidence. And I thought, okay, if I can do that with guys who are like emotionally impacted to the max, they're really traumatized by their loneliness. Someone who's a competent, good salesperson, piece of cake is snap to teach them that. So the other, and I say it without arrogance, the other thing I will claim is that I'm the only person who can train your team or train you to have that most important kind of confidence. That one is the most important thing.
Paul, we've got a lot of leaders that listen in on this podcast, and I'm curious for our sales leaders and executives listening in, how does this apply at an organizational level in terms of selling your vision and getting
very
motivated?
Good. First of all, it's extraordinarily useful for getting your team to enrolled in your vision. But there's another thing I want people to get. If you really want to be a leader, you have to learn enrollment, which this is fantastic for because it works subconsciously. But you also have to allow power to flow both ways. For power to be responsibly used, it can't flow in one direction. You have to let your team feel empowered to speak their truth to you. And if you're not in a genuine position to hear their truth, then you're half of a leader. You're only half of a leader. So how do you create the state of mind where you're able to hear someone else's truth? And that is a piece of training I teach, which has to do teaching mindfulness. teaching what I call the witness state, witness consciousness. So in my model, there's will consciousness, where you just keep going, you exert your will. There's creative consciousness, where you come up with new ideas. And then there's what I call compassion confidence, where compassion confidence means you can see the other person as someone who's not trying to be self-sabotaging or sabotaging you. You see them as a human being who's in pain, and you're dealing with them from that level. I don't have time to go into a story of amazing. I really don't. If we went an hour, I could, or if you have me back. But again, I learned this from coaching guys and teaching guys to have compassion for the people who frustrate them. And if you bless the people who frustrate you, if you have a team member who's not getting it, of course, you have to correct them. And if they're not correctable, you let them go. But anyone who doesn't perform for me, I'll counsel them. And then if they don't perform, I bless them. I don't get, in my heart, I say, bless you for being a stepping stone and for showing up to teach me to be a better leader. I release you now on your path. I don't say that to them. I say it to myself. So to be a good leader, you have to enroll people in your vision, which you can do using these techniques very powerfully and very quickly. But second, you have to be in a state of mind where you allow power to flow both ways. Someone who doesn't allow power to flow both ways, both in their head and their heart and with a structure to do that, is not a leader. They're a tyrant. And tyrants don't do well. Eventually, sooner or later, they get crushed, and rightly so.
I'm sitting here listening to this, and all I can think about is culture, how this affects culture. And just think about, if we just stop and think about that for just a second, this has a tremendous uptick on developing the culture inside your sales team.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. And that's that. When I'm teaching leaders, that's one of the things that I help them to get. And I put them through a process where they can develop that witness consciousness, because that's not trained. That is a skill that we're not taught. The ability to look objectively at what's going on. And also, here's the skill set: to see where the other person is at without having to go there for yourself. That requires that you emotionally regulate. The ability to emotionally self-regulate, that's not taught anywhere. I teach it. It's taught in therapy. You can learn it in therapies like dialectical behavior therapy. I'm a healer, so I've looked into all the healing systems I can. So you have to be able to emotionally regulate. You have to have that witness consciousness where you can see what's going on, to see where the other person is at emotionally without having to go there for yourself. If you go there for yourself, they take over emotional leadership. If you don't see where they're at, you don't get the information you need to shift their behavior. So again, this comes back to states of consciousness, both in terms of influencing others and influencing yourself and your ability to lead and see others. This whole concept of states of consciousness is bat bleep crazy, but it's really, really powerful, and it's unique. And it confers an advantage upon you because your competition is not doing it. I guarantee you they're not doing it.
Paul, what a fascinating conversation. I know all our listeners are thinking.
Excuse me, forgive me. Can you tell I'm loving doing this?
I can tell.
You see, this is my passion, is to teach.
I love it. Well, how can people get more Paul Ross in their life?
Sure. It's real simple. Because this is so outside the lines, I've created a really nice free gift. If you go to paulrossbook.com, you'll not only get a digital copy of my book, this one, but we also have a really nice training on using subconscious language to create that desire to sell. And we have another goodie I don't want to reveal to you. So go to paulrossbook.com. If you want to see what I can do for people, go to paulrossresults.com. There's nothing to sign up or do anything there. Just to show you, I increased this person's sales in 90 days by 646%. That's crazy. But when you see the testimonial, go, wow, that's real. How can I get more, Paul? And I don't
love it.
Please come back on your show.
Oh, this was good stuff, Paul. I mean, I appreciate everything that you shared. I mean, I was eating up what you were cooking. So
thank you. I love it. I love teaching. It's the most fun I can have with my clothes on. And shout out to Scandinavia. I heard you're really, can I say to my Swedish friends, can I say, and it's clean, Jag älskar Sverige. That means I love Sweden.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Well, Paul, we love Sweden as well. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas and your heart with us today. Fantastic.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, Larry. What a fun conversation. Very, very intriguing. So many aspects of this to unpack. And I'm curious what stood out to you the most.
You know, for me, actually the whole conversation, but here, this is what just floating through my head, because I love what Paul had dropped. Rapport building's overrated because you know what? I'm going to throw my hand up. I'm a high relationship guy. You know that. But I do like getting down to business right away, especially with busy executives. But it's putting that person in that right frame of mind. And that's why I use the word comfortable. I want somebody to feel comfortable with me almost immediately, but it's how you set it up. That's why I'm a big believer. Words and messaging matter. And that's what I loved about Paul's message.
Yeah, so make sure to click the link in the show notes. Take advantage of the generous offer Paul's given us. What an incredible conversation. And by the way, we got a lot of incredible conversations lined up for this spring. So make sure to like and subscribe. And thank you to everybody who is sharing the podcast with other people in your sales bullpen, other friends who are in sales. There is a growing movement of authenticity right here in this sales profession we all love. And it is so much fun fueling that movement here at the Selling from the Heart podcast with you, Larry.
No, this is fun. I love this stuff. I always tell people this is our therapy. We love talking to really interesting people that just the Selling from the Heart community is global. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Get your daily dose of inspiration at sellingfromtheheart.net/daily. Fresh inspiration served up every morning to keep you focused, fired up, and in your heart. We got a lot of great things coming up. Until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, discover the subtle words that sell, and most of all,
sell from the heart.